Let's see how to install MySQL on Docker. So let me start by opening my terminal. So here, terminal, new terminal. Let me minimize my Explorer. I want to start by pulling the MySQL image from Docker Hub. So to do that, we're simply going to run docker pull, and then the name of the image that we want to pull. In my case, it's MySQL, and I'm going to specify the tag, which in my case is going to be latest. And this ensures that the image that will be downloaded is the latest one. So let's run this command. And we now have the latest. Now we're ready to actually create and run our MySQL container. To do that, we're going to use docker run, and we need to specify a few parameters. The first one is going to be -d, because I don't want the container to take over this terminal. Next up is going to be the name for the new container, so --name. Here you can specify whatever name you want. I'm just going to call my container MySQL container 1. Then we need to specify the environment variables with -e for environment. We need one environment variable, which is the root password. So make sure you spell this correctly, MySQL root password. Then you need to specify the password that you actually want your root user to use. And the password I'm going to use for my root user is simply going to be password. But choosing a stronger password might be a good idea. I want to configure one more thing here, and this is going to be port forwarding. So -p for port forwarding. And I'm going to forward port 3306 from the host to port 3306 on the container. Now 3306 is the default port that MySQL uses, and this is the port that will be used inside the container. Now the first one, the first number, is the port that we are forwarding. This is the port, the first one is the port on the host. And you can definitely go with 3306, which is the same port that the container uses. This is completely valid, completely okay. But this is not exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to add here another 0. And the reason for that is that if you also have MySQL running on your host and you do use 3306, this way you might be trying to forward the port that you actually use locally. Now, if you know for sure that you don't have MySQL running locally, then this might be okay. But just to be on the safe side, I am going to add here an extra 0, and this will prevent any kind of clashes. We just need to keep in mind that on the host, the port is going to be 3306 0, and in the container it's actually going to be 330. And lastly, we need to specify the image that this container is going to use, and in our case it's of course going to use the MySQL image, and I'm also going to specify the tag, which is going to be latest. And let's run this command, which will create and run the container, and we get back the hash that was generated for this new container. If we now run docker container l, we can see that it is running. We can see the image here, and here we can see its name, which is MySQL container 1. If we now want to connect to this MySQL instance, we can easily do that. We're going to use docker execute or docker exec. Then we need to specify the container, and you can do that using the name of the container, which is MySQL container 1 in my case, or the container ID. This is what I'm going to do. So let's copy the ID of the container. And here I'm going to add -it because we want an interactive session. The command that we want to use is simply MySQL. This will start the MySQL client. We then need to specify the user using the -u flag. So the user is going to be root, and -p, so it will prompt us for the password. Let's run this command. We now need to type in the password, which is exactly what we chose here. So let me copy this and paste it. And when I hit enter, we can see welcome to my. So as an example, let's try to create here a new database. So create database, and let's just call it example database, and the new database was created. If we want to quit from MySQL, we can just use the quit. If we now want to connect to MySQL from Visual Studio Code, we can go to the extensions tab over here. And here I'm going to look for SQL Tools. This is the extension that I'm going to use, SQL Tools. So let's install this one, and it was installed. Now the SQL Tools extension is not enough on its own. It needs an additional extension, a driver that will help it connect to a specific type of database. So for this, I'm going to choose this second option, SQL Tools for MySQL, and it also supports MariaDB and TIDB. So let's choose this one, and I'm going to install this one as well, so install. Now we will be able to connect to our MySQL database. So here I'm going to choose the new option, the SQL Tools option. Then I'm going to choose Add New Connection. Here I'll choose MySQL. Now for the connection name, I'll just write MySQL on Docker. The server address is going to be localhost, but notice that the port needs to be 3306 0. Do you remember that? Because here, when we created our container, we used this for port forward. So even though the container uses port 3306, we're actually forwarding this port from the host. 3306 0. So this is what I need to write here for the port. As for the database, let's try to connect to our new example database. So this is the one that we created here. Let me copy it from here. And the username is going to be root and save connection. And we can see that it was saved. And now here, I'm going to click on the green icon to actually connect to this database. And we need to provide the password for our root user. So in my case, it's simply going to be password and enter. And we're now connected to our database. You can see the example DB here. And from here, we can run SQL query.